breakfast.
Yeah, well, I was only 10 stone when I started this. But anyway, if I can just talk about a bit about what's happened, what's happening now, and what I'm hoping to happens in the future. So it started off in a garage in Hull, and it was basically, I had a military vehicle, I was going to start a business, I was looking for somebody who knew the way around a military vehicle, and unfortunately I found someone from the Remy.
Hey!
So, I'm in trouble. Oh no, there's an officer from the Remy. So, basically, basically that's how it began. Was Pete, a couple of lads he served with, and me rocking up on a Saturday with his vehicle, and having a bit of breakfast, and it was kind of the best idea I never had, really, because we used to turn up. The breakfast was bought in. This sort of banter would start, and then I would meet guys downtown, like you do with the vet. You see the veterans badge, and you go, "Oh, so who did you serve with then?" And no matter what answer they gave you, Royal Navy or Royal Artillery, I'd say something like, "Oh, well, I'll speak slowly then." and then I'd get it back, and then I'd go, What do you do on a Saturday morning? They go, well, sometimes I'm forced to go shopping with the missus, you know what I mean? So I said, well, how about coming down Pete Barker's garage and having a butty with some ex-military and, a bit of banter, and they go, yeah, I'm up for that. They'd turn up on the Saturday, walk away laughing, and the next week they'd come back with a friend. And by the time we got to about 30 people, I actually turned around and asked Pete for permission to ask people to come to his garage on a Saturday morning. So, but anyway, it carried on from there. 2014 was I know you won't believe this, my 50th birthday. But it happened to fall on the Saturday, and the guys had a poke around on my Facebook and found a few lads that I'd served with, and they were there on the Saturday. And they said, this is wonderful. And it was almost like a light bulb moment. If we can do it here, we can do it in other places. The next one started in Newcastle. The one after that was in Retford, and another one in Northants. And after that, we suddenly had 120 breakfast clubs all over the country. And I couldn't believe it. And it sort of... I am really grateful to all the admins, like Andy, who's an exceptional admin for Salisbury. You're very, very lucky to have him. But basically, that's how it went. And at 120 breakfast clubs, or something like that, I get a message from Mark Lancaster, who was the Minister for Veterans and Armed Forces Personnel, and asked if I would come and talk to him about breakfast clubs. Sorry.
Well said, Andy.
You can take the man out of the army.
He must be RAF, they got him.
See, for those of you that haven't been to a breakfast club, this is it here. This is it right here. This is what happens. Well, we actually let the Air Force come to breakfast clubs because you've got to have something to laugh at. So that's me in trouble with the Air Force as well. But yeah, we went to see Mark Lancaster, and it was the late John Terry, who was the national organiser at the time. He sat us in his office, and I just thought he wanted to talk to us about breakfast clubs. And he went round the front of his desk, and he leant against his desk and he folded his arms, and then 25 people came into the room and sat round us, and we were like rabbits caught in the headlights. And he said, so what's these breakfast clubs about then? And I went, what do you mean? I said, well, what's your aims? What's your agenda? And I went, to put veterans in the same room together, have them buy breakfast and take the mickey out of each other, basically. And he went, what, that's it? So he said, how are you funding it? I said, funding what? He said, well, if I was to open a chequebook now and write a figure in it, what sort of figure do I need to write in there? And I went, nothing.
£5.95 for your breakfast.
I knew that table was trouble. So anyway, he says, so how do you fund it then? I said, fund what? They buy their own breakfast, they sit down together like they do in the cookhouse or the mess or the naffy or whatever, and they break bread together and they take the mickey out of each other. And that's it. And it ends isolation for them because they all speak the same language. They've all been conditioned from when they joined up, when they went through basic, etc. Because the vast majority of people, are probably, I mean, can I just have a show of hands? Who joined before they were 20? Right. Who's changed since they were 18 to now? No. You see?
You quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. But that's it. You're in that impressionable age. The military take you in, and they turn you into a soldier, a sailor, or an airman, or airwoman. Yeah, and you'll never be a civilian. The misnomer when people say returning to civilian life, you don't return to civilian life. For the vast majority of us, you become a civilian for the first time. But that's the big question: what is a civilian? For the military, you will never ever be a civilian. I'm sorry, you stuck with it for life. You've been conditioned at that age, and you will always be a soldier, a sailor, or an airman. And that's the problem. That's what causes the isolation, because 2.8 million veterans in this country, that means 1 in every 25 people is a vet. So you are normally sat in a room with 25 people, you're the only vet there. So when you talk about stuff that happened to you in the military, they have absolutely no concept of what you're talking about. You put all them vets in a room together, and I demonstrated earlier on, you know, when you say something like, I picked up my kit in Senalaga and tapped 200 metres down the range with my SLR, and they go, oh, whoa, hang on a minute. What's Senalaga? What's an SLR? Range? What are you talking about? And by the time we've explained that, it's pointless telling the story. I can say that in this room, and just about every single person in this room just understood exactly what I was talking about, yeah? Senalaga, probably the worst lager in the world. Even worse than Munster lager. Munster lager, yeah. So that's kind of the past. The present is what's happening now. Places like Salisbury, and places around. We're now in 14 different countries. There's now 305 breakfast clubs in 14 different countries. New Zealand, Australia, Cyprus, Bulgaria, the USA. There was one about to start in Canada. A lot of them are expats. The US ones are US military, and they're trying to get this 22, you know, the 22 figure. They're trying to get that down. We're getting people now saying this is the answer, because nobody's tried this before in the States. And I think it's going to be the answer here for a lot of vets. Because I personally know people that have walked up to me and said, the only reason I'm walking the planet now is because I go to a breakfast club. I told a story on this table. Oh, hang on. One very quick story, just so that this really, yeah, just one. This really got to me. An admin from a club in North Wales sent me a message on Facebook and said, send me your number, I need to speak to you. So I sent her my number, she rang me up and she said, we had a new larker this morning. He was waiting outside the venue when we got there, and she said we could tell he wasn't doing very well in life because of the way he was dressed. You know, he looked a bit dishevelled and stuff, but when I spoke to him, he said he was ex-2 para. Proud man. In we went, was having breakfast. She said, I was sat up this end of the table with the lads having a laugh. And she said, when I looked down the table, I could see this guy, and he was sat eating his breakfast, sort of listening to everything that was going on. And she said I could see tears dropping off the end of his nose. So she said, I didn't draw attention to him. I got up, I went round the table, I got myself sat between him and the rest, put my arm around him and said, are you all right? And he said, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thank you very much, I'm good. So then she says, well, you just seem a bit upset. I says, no, I've just realised I've come home. And I just went, and that's what it's about. That is exactly what the breakfast clubs are about now. So that's the now. The future. In the future, right? There'll be a lot of people here that agree that when you walk out of that gate for the last time, it's almost as if the door gets slammed behind you. And that culture that you've grown up in, for a lot of us, we did grow up in it. You became a soldier, a sailor, an airman from school. You grew up in where you looked after each other. You you knew your very life depended on the guy or girl standing next to you, you knew that no matter what happened to you, this guy, this girl, would pick you up or drag you or whatever to get you help. Yeah? No matter what. You knew. Because you do the same for them. Then you walk out the gate for the last time, that door slams behind you, and you're on your own. You've lost your identity, you've lost your home, you've lost your place of work, you've lost your income, you've lost the clothes that you go to work in, everything's gone. Okay? And you then say, right, I've got to find somewhere to live. I've got to earn a living. I've got to talk to people that I've not really talked to before, and I don't know how they function. You're in an alien world. Now, that is the problem with veterans, that is the issue, is because they don't relate to the rest of the planet when they first walk out of them gates, and they have to learn all that from scratch that the average 16-year-old learns when they leave school. So it's a tad harder when you're in your 20s or 30s, and I don't want that to happen anymore. I want people to walk out the gate for the last time with their commanding officer saying to them, "You're posted to Salisbury Breakfast Club, go and report to the admin there."
Not everybody.
Not everybody. I'm talking about people from Salisbury. Although that's not a bad shout, to be fair. But that's what should be happening, is you're not leaving the family, you're just going to a different part of the family. Because that's what the military becomes, it becomes your family. And when you go out that gate for the last time and the door slams behind you, it's like your family's abandoned you. And that's why 46% of veterans feel isolation, why 24% of them have had feelings of or thoughts about suicide. And that's why some of them actually go through with it, or end up in prison, or on drugs, or whatever happens to them, you know, or why they end up in such a bad state, is because they've been conditioned to keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter what. So why do people like, I'm not picking on, but RBL, SAFA, etc., all these organisations that set up systems for them, say, right, you come to us and ask for help and we'll sort you out. Why do they expect veterans or military to do that? Because when's the last time you heard a veteran ask a civilian for help? They'll ask somebody stood next to him in a breakfast club, I need a hand in my garden, or you know what I mean. But they've been conditioned to keep going no matter what the circumstances are. So they're not gonna walk in. What the future is, SAFA, RBL, combat stress, all these walking into a breakfast club and saying, right, we're here with a checkbook, not collecting tin, we're here with a checkbook, who can we help? And the admin's going, well, I know my club, just like he knows his club, he knows who's doing well and who's struggling, and saying, right, Dave over there is losing his job next week and he's probably going to be homeless. So come here and use the peer pressure to give them help. So that's, I've done the past, I've done the present, I've done the future. I hope I haven't bored you, and I'm absolutely humbled and overwhelmed to see all these people in here. And if I've offended anybody, I'm really sorry.